us going. We're going to see if that's the right one. That is not the right one.
That would be real nice. Oh, I see us. We're right here. It says we're live.
Are we good?
I see us.
Hi, Lauren. Okay, we're
Da, da,
good.
da, da, da.
Hello. Hi,
Nope.
everyone.
Hello. Don't mind me just posting the picture like
hmm
always.
We've got a late start today. If you couldn't tell, I came straight from a Yankees game. Um, and we're going right from the ball game to the Hunger Games. So,
Ha ha. Is that
ha
the
ha
cat in
ha.
the background?
Well, it's not a stream if she's not popping in here.
Basically, at this point, I guess, huh?
Don't drink my water. Go away.
She's funny.
She has a vet appointment tomorrow to see how she's been doing with her like special kidney food. Um,
Mm.
and see if that has what? Okay, well, whatever.
Mm.
To see if it's helped at all with her issues or anything. So we'll find out how that goes. But um, she's been like very thirsty. So we've just kind
Mm.
of like decided that she gets to drink water from wherever, whenever she wants. So she has access to everything, but she thinks she gets access to my like personal ice water. So that's always fun.
And you're like, no, 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 no. That
Nope,
one's
this is
mine.
mine. Thank you. She drinks from the dog's bowl. She drinks from the bathtub. She drinks from the kitchen sink tap, the bathroom sink, the cups of the bathroom. She has her own two dishes of water.
Yelling.
None of them are as good as mine, apparently.
That's actually so funny.
hmm
She's like, but I want what you got.
Right, right. Correct.
That's what I'm hearing.
Yes. She's the ruler of the apartment. Of course she is. She always has been. She
Yeah.
always has been.
It's a
She
cat's
rules
world.
it.
We're all just living in it.
Correct. Correct. Oh my gosh, my nose. The pollen in Florida has been so bad lately. Like everybody's allergies are acting up. So it's like my eyes have been on fire the last 2 days. On my nose. We'll get
That is
through
one
it.
thing about the South I definitely don't miss is
Yeah.
that yellow, nasty pollen crap.
hmm I did not have allergies until living in Florida a couple years ago. And then they kicked in, and I was like,
Cor-
oh no.
no, correct.
hmm
Exactly. That's where they came from.
Oof.
That's where it came from. Well, I guess we can get
Um,
started since I shared all of the live pictures. Oh, I got something on my book. Oh well. So last week, well, first off, welcome to Paperback Cowgirls. I know that sometimes our stream starts with, well, okay, I'm not
uh,
gonna lie, not even sometimes. Most of the time, it starts off with us just trying to get our life together, but it's fine. I think that's just like that's our
That's
MO
our
now.
usual, yeah.
Um,
We're here to prove that not
so
everything that you see being perfect on social media is perfect in real life, and that's okay.
exactly,
It's
you guys
fine.
get the transparency with us here.
hmm
So last week we discussed the first book in the Hunger Games universe by Suzanne Collins, which is self-titled Hunger Games. And then we also talked about how it is the 12th most challenged book on the American Library Association list of top 100 most challenged books to be banned. And that was between 2010 and 2019. And we talked a little bit of why and kind of carried on some more conversation about banned books because Heartstopper before that was also on the banned books list.
hmm
So it's really interesting to me still that since the 1980s we've been trying to ban books here when that's just like not the point, I guess. But whatever.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
so just a reminder that our Instagram is where we announce most things, and that is Paperback Cowgirls, like our Twitch. And then our YouTube is also Paperback Cowgirls. And from what I last checked, our Heartstopper discussion is up, and our Fourth Wing one is up. But I don't think
Yes.
any of our other ones are.
Nope. I am working on our like
Eventually,
back catalog of those.
yeah,
Yeah.
eventually they'll get up there. And then, yeah, you have to let me know if you need help because I've edited a few videos in my lifetime. I'd be a little rusty, but I'm starting to
Yeah.
figure it out.
Um, I forgot to tell
Um,
you real quick that we can discuss this more like ourselves, but Tony has offered to be our social media slash video editor content person. So yay,
I'm in.
Tony!
Whenever we can pay you, Tony, I will. But right now,
You gotta work for love, my man.
yeah, yeah. Right now, it's just out of the goodness of your heart. And then this week we are discussing Catching Fire, which is the second book of the Hunger Games series. And this is just a gentle reminder if you are new here that we are covering currently each book throughout the Hunger Games series by each week, finishing up with Sunrise on the Reaping, which is the newest book that comes out in 8 days.
That's
That's
crazy.
insane. And we'll be covering that one the first week of April. So it'll give everybody a couple weeks plus us to get
Mhm.
through the series and to have a chance to actually read it. So then by the time we're covering it, we're not spoiling too much by then.
Mhm.
And then yeah,
Yeah.
anything you got before we get started?
Well, just speaking of spoiling, just the casual reminder, as always, that our stream is not spoiler free. Um, so keep that in mind. And then, again, as always, opinions are our own. So whether you agree or disagree, or like or didn't like the book or things that we have to say, totally cool. You can politely discuss with us or argue with us, or just feel free to come and go as you please. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it. Um,
Okay.
yeah,
You can take us
so
in the recap.
cool. Like Alexa said, Catching Fire is the second book in the Hunger Games, what was originally a trilogy and now is just a series at this point. Um, and then Catching Fire follows our main characters, Katniss Everdeen and Peeta Mellark, after their victory in the 74th Hunger Games. They return to District 11, which has become increasingly restless with a rebellion brewing due to actions that um, the people in the district saw as rebellious that Katniss did in the
Mhm.
Hunger Games. Um, President Snow, who is the leader of like the capital and all of the districts, um, kind of has it out for her. Um, and in the announcement for the 75th Hunger Games, it's announced that all of the victors from the previous Hunger Games over the last 75 years will be put into the reaping, and then this year's tributes will be pulled from that. So, um, Katniss comes back and Peeta comes back. And then, of course, this further escalates the conflict between the capital and the districts. At first, Katniss starts off really um, just trying to play the game by the rules, and then she eventually becomes entangled in this like rebellion, trying to navigate this dangerous political landscape while also trying to protect her friends and her family, um, and being like a symbol of revolution and hope for the people in the districts. There's a marriage and a fake pregnancy announcement and more deaths and a lot of stuff.
And we get introduced to a lot of characters that people still love to this day, like both from the movie and from the second book.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the other victors and stuff like that.
Yeah. Oh my god, please.
Um, so to start off, I honestly forgot how much that I love this series. Um, Reading it as an adult has honestly showed me how much I missed from when I first read it as a kid
Mhm.
or as a teenager. I am 110% convinced that more people were part of this like re-envisioned rebellion from the get-go
Mhm.
than I was kind of led to believe reading this as a kid. Um like I was texting Jess earlier and I was like, Madge giving her this Mockingjay pin, like that has to be freaking planned.
Yeah.
Like she knew something,
Which
and the
Madge
fact
is
that
Katniss's
her
friend, who is the mayor's daughter, like the mayor of District 12. That's his daughter. So
and
anyway.
her aunt
Mhm.
was friends with Katniss's mom,
Mhm.
and her aunt is also somebody who also had competed in the games.
Yes.
They competed in the one of the quarter quells, I think,
I think the
right? And it was her
50th.
and Haymitch
Mhm.
together. Yeah, the
They were in the
50th.
50th.
And it was her and Haymitch together. That's the
Mhm.
one that Haymitch won. So
Yeah.
obviously that doesn't give it away. That means the aunt didn't survive. But she, coincidentally, is the one that points out that she makes a comment where she says, well, the arena can't last forever. And that
Mm.
leads Katniss to do what she does at the ending or towards the end of Catching Fire to end the games early. And this is what I was talking about last stream when she goes dink. That's what it was.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
That's why I was like, it's this one, right? And you were like the berries, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
that's book two.
I was like, we spoil it for our viewers. We don't. Well, I don't care if we spoil it for me. Yeah.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. I am continuing to really enjoy the series. So just like if you were here or not last week, Alexis is rereading the series. This is my first time reading through the series. So I am really enjoying it so far. I liked the, I guess, slow build of this one where we get a lot more of like her life as a victor and kind of how things happen in the districts and things that are happening in the districts now that she's won and there's a rebellion going on. Um, so I kind of like that slower view into it. And then I think that was probably like the first two-thirds of the book was pre games, and then the last like third was like the games. Um, but I'm really liking it. I think it's still super, super topical. There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of similarities that are currently happening in our country. Um, and again, I think whether I had read this at like 16 or reading this at 30, maybe even reading this at 50, it's going to resonate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think honestly, like not even it just resonating to now, but just resonating to history in general. It just goes to show the lengths that people will go to truly fight for what they believe in, but
Mhm.
then it'll also go to show the lengths that the government will go to hide things
Yeah.
and to keep people in control. And like obviously you have to have controlled chaos to a certain extent,
Mhm.
otherwise it'd be anarchy. But just when it like also kind of talks about what is too much,
Right.
like where's the line,
Yeah.
of where you
Yeah.
cross. But yeah, I genuinely feel like if a lot of the people within Catching Fire weren't already a part of the rebellion and like the uprising, then they eventually became a part of it by default.
Mhm.
And also, I forgot how good the books are in comparison to the movies because I feel like I've seen the movies on and off throughout the years a couple of times.
Yeah.
And I hadn't actually reread them since reading them the first time as a teenager. And so just all the emotions and all the pieces of information that we learned from Katniss's point of view versus the more narrow world of movies
Mhm.
um was I just like I forgot how good that piece of this was.
Yeah.
I know sometimes movies or TV shows do a good job about like what the other characters are doing,
Mhm.
but overall I think this is also reminding me the movies didn't do a terrible job of kind of following the books
Yeah.
relatively spot on.
There's definitely like I've seen bits and pieces of the movies on and off over the years. Um there were definitely moments like reading the book where I was very much like like literally like gasping over things that were happening where I don't think I had that reaction with the movies. Um the one thing I will say that I wish the movies would have done differently, and I think this is a wider problem with like movie adaptations of young adult dystopian, like specifically novels, is um obviously they can't always cast younger actors due to like acting laws and child laws and things like that. But I think casting Jennifer Lawrence at 20 years old didn't hit the same way as like knowing Katniss in the books is 16 years old going through this. Because like watching Jennifer Lawrence as a, I mean, I know she's supposed to be 16, but physically as a 20-year-old Katniss, and go, thinking of her having to go through a marriage, or like thinking about killing people or survival, or, like the fake pregnancy. I'm like, okay, like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense for a 20, 21 year old, versus like thinking about Katniss in the books as um 16 and having to go through these things hits very different. And I think if they would have cast a younger or younger looking actress, that would have kind of resonated a little bit more coming across like in the movies. But I mean, like I said, that's a wider, I think, young adult problem with these adaptations. But from what I remember, other than that, like they're pretty good adaptations.
Oh yeah, and I agree because even like Josh Hutcherson at that point also didn't look super young. I mean, like he looks
Mm-mm.
younger, but not
But not
that young.
16, yeah.
And honestly, it makes so much sense because, and I'll get more into this, but like honestly, just this concept of this like forced love triangle.
Mm,
This 16-year-old girl whose main thing was surviving and feeding her family would not be concerned about two boys.
yeah.
First of all, Gail being older than her, she would extra not be worried.
Mm-hmm.
And two, Peta being her age, like I feel like if she was gonna fall in love with anybody truly, truly, which I'll reveal more about that kind of thought process later as we finish Mockingjay. But if she was gonna fall in love with anybody, obviously would be Peta. But like for her to be with Gail would have strictly been out of convenience. Like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
you take care of my family and I take care of yours, and we're best friends. Sure.
Yeah. Like might as well.
Like it
I
would not have been out of her having that mental capacity. She
right.
was not like your average teenager who has the time to think about stuff like this.
I Laura Winnie, I did not hear about that. I'm looking that up right now. The college students spray painting their shirts. Um
No, I didn't either.
I see from a couple years ago, unless there was something more recent. Um hmm. Yeah, Lauren, was this like recent or just like in general? I feel like it's still pretty relevant. I mean, you see people spray painting swastikas and, fuck you know who's across billboards and signs and things like that. Um,
Right. That's pretty common. Remember when everybody did like Coney 2012,
oh
whatever that
my
was?
god, yes.
Or
Um,
Harambe.
Harambe. Everything went to shit after Harambe died, man. R.I.P.
He didn't deserve it. He didn't
He
deserve
did
it.
not. To get back to your point, I I mean, Katniss makes a solid, like, makes a point to explain, at least in the first book, that she does not want to get married and she does not want kids. Knowing that she's grown up the way that she has, even in the first book where she was, I guess like subservient is maybe the word that I want, to the government, she wasn't actively rebelling, but she didn't like the government. and was like, I don't want to bring a child into this district knowing that this is the way that things are. Um, the only person that I really love is or feel love for is my sister. She's the only one I want to protect,
Mm-hmm.
the only one I would do anything for. Um, I agree that like if she married Gail, it would be for convenience, but like I fully believe that she and Peta trauma bonded, and that is the only like
Mm-hmm.
real connection she has with him for a very long time. Like I know he had like he
Mm-hmm.
was in love with her, he had this big crush on her, but she talks about like they never really ran in the same circles at school. She didn't know him, and she didn't really like have any solid opinions on him before they were both pulled for the Hunger Games. And I think part of it also comes from like her feeling that she owes him something because he gave her the bread, he kept her alive in the Hunger Games. And so I think like a lot of that has like impacted her feelings on him. So I don't even know. Maybe this will get explained more in Mockingjay, but like I don't even know that she really loves Peta. If she were to like stop and think about, if she had the opportunity to stop and think about it.
So that actually is a perfect segue into what I have to say. So as an adult, like I know back in the day, this was like Twilight, you know, that like era of oh everybody needs to be in a love triangle.
Oh my God!
Um,
Please end the love
you know,
triangles.
yes, like listen, it was cool at first, but all right, I get it.
Not every book, every
So
story needs a love triangle.
not at all.
Mm-mm.
So now reading it, like I said, being older, I really don't feel like there was ever one. I maybe think as a teenager, maybe I thought, and maybe I was like caught up in the theatrics of all the movies
Yeah.
coming out, and then reading the books and being a teenager. But as an adult, literally reading this with like an older mind and more of a higher literacy skill, I
Yeah.
guess. I was like, I don't even feel like there was a competition.
Mhm.
I really didn't. To be honest, I think she loves both of them in different ways, but she was never so down bad that like worrying about them and what they got was like her thing. There was so much other stuff going on,
Mhm.
like this literal rebellion. And like you said, she just never had the time to sit down and even consider what am I actually feeling. And then when
Yeah.
she did have time to sit down and consider what she was feeling, she was having like PTSD dreams.
Yeah,
So she
literally.
was not even in the capacity as a
Mm-mm.
scarred young teenager who's had to literally fight for her
Yeah.
whole life, and then in like a orchestrated entertainment facility
Mhm.
twice to even consider which looking at Sarah J. Maas and Rebecca Yarros, oh, I know there's a war, but like let me go get some dick. No, what?
No.
Like this is not the time.
No.
So
Mm-mm.
and 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 honestly, Gail was a mad guilt tripper. Like, oh, I'm your friend and I've known you your whole life.
Okay.
And I didn't know
And
your history owed you me.
literally, literally, it ties into like uh the concept of like friend zoning, and like me being your friend does not mean that I owe you anything beyond being your friend. I don't owe you a relationship, romance, sex, nothing. So I totally agree with you. Gail like guilt tripped her, and yeah.
She was 16, literally just fought for her life.
Mhm.
Why are you coming at her? Like, I think if she had enough emotional capacity, like if she was not 16, she would have sat him down and been like, babe, I
Yeah.
love you because you're my friend, but like, if we got married, it would not be for anything other than basically helping our family stay alive.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that would be it. And as like a protector essentially, like I think he would be the one to go to the coal mines while
Mhm.
she hunted,
Yeah.
and Prim would take care of the house with the other kids. But like if you think about, these kids were like self-raising each other, and I feel like he gives me bad vibes. I feel like he would have still expected kids from her at one point. He just gives me that vibe that he would have been like, oh, why not one kid? No, you have four. It's
Yeah.
called the sister of Katniss, and
Your
why was your mom
brothers.
popping out multiple kids when y'all got no
Uh-huh.
money,
Uh-huh.
no food?
It
Y'all bringing all these dang kids into poverty.
it's giving and I can't say if this was like the intention or not, but it's giving almost like religious cult type of vibes of like,
Mm-hmm.
leaving it up to God and God will provide or he won't. But not doing any sort of like family planning. Maybe they don't even have like contraceptives or anything in the Hunger Games world.
That's
Um,
kind of my like theory because it's a young
mhm,
adult book with only or you yeah or yeah, a young adult book with only one perspective and it didn't really touch topics like that. My
mhm.
theory is that with this being a fairly like government controlled
Yeah.
environment with the 13 districts that
Yeah.
they don't there's no
There's nothing.
literacy
Yeah.
and they don't want there to be because they need the workers for all the
Mhm.
districts.
Mhm. Which again, super topical with like, the anti-abortion laws and pro-life people who are really just pro-birth people and, you know, having babies so we continue to populate to continue to push out laborers and workers and all this other stuff and like you can definitely see where a lot of the inspiration was coming from. But I don't know, just
Yeah.
kind of the
And
way
then
you
with
were like, bringing more and more kids into this world and into poverty kind of gives me like religious culty vibes without obviously the religious aspect of this book in this world.
or just the poverty chain, right? Like if you remove religion out of it, like even just the poverty of
Yeah.
it, if you keep them mis or undereducated and poor,
Mhm.
they're going to do what they want you to do,
Mhm.
which or what you want them to do, which is continue to bring them generations
Mhm.
of employees that
Mhm.
you can use to fund this capital. And because you notice that nobody crosses districts either.
Yeah.
Like, can you move from one district to another? Like, no. So it's like, is any of this kind of incestuous at some point? Like, how are people in each of these
Mm.
districts has enough of a two
Yeah.
generations passed by for that to be the case? Because this is the
Right.
75th
Fifth.
since the uprising.
That's a good point. At what point are you
So
just
it's
like
like,
picking from the same pool? Well, because she
right.
does say, she says that she and Gail look enough alike that people were buying the cousin lie. And it's like, you say you're not related, but maybe you are, like somewhere down the line. Um, but also to your point of like keeping people, uneducated, misinformed. They can't make their own opinions. They don't have critical thinking skills to question things or to even think about questioning things. You keep people dumb, broke, and stupid and sick.
And in fear, living in fear.
Yeah.
That's what the game served as
Yep.
because you're constantly in fear that your name's going to be picked.
Yep.
Yeah. And so then with
Crazy.
PETA, like I said, I feel like if this was any other circumstance, she might have fallen in love with him, but this started as a literal survival tactic for her.
Mhm.
For PETA, I feel like he had the ability to fall in love with her very early on because he wasn't living like this like dirt ass poor life like Kat
Yeah.
or Gail were. So he wasn't out there hunting for food and doing anything else. Like they owned this bakery, they were a little well off. So I think
Mhm.
he was kind of more of the dreamer between the two of them.
Yeah.
And again, I feel like he still also, I feel like he might have asked her for kids, but if she said no, I feel like he would have respected that more than Gail.
Mhm.
Gail just gives me like weirdo vibes, but I just, I also feel like PETA was in love with this consistent idea of who Katniss was and not who she actually was because at what point had he actually ever gotten to know her?
Right.
He has literally only ever known her in all three scenarios in which he has come across her. She's in survival mode.
Yeah. Yeah.
He has not met Katniss on like an average hunting Sunday.
Mhm.
And so that's where Gail kind of has the one up on her, but where I really feel like and Mockingjay really kind of shows this is that Gail really doesn't evolve with her in the sense of I think he still views her as the Katniss that they were growing up and hunting together,
Okay.
and I don't think he recognizes who she is after trying to literally survived two whole cycles of the Hunger Games.
Mhm. Yep.
And so I don't know. I just feel like it's weird to me. Like what these like just men in general. Honestly, it's like kids are like
Men.
puppies to y'all. Like you just want us to pop them out. Like oh well, we'll get along with it. Yeah, because you're not the primary parent, so it's like
That
babysitting
part.
to you basically.
Mhm.
And then on top of that, it's like it's I think I saw this meme. It was a few years ago and I shared it. If you're broke and you know you broke, why are you having kids?
Correct. Correct.
But my thing is that it might be like a Russian thing, like a Russia where they forcefully like they've outlawed like child free propaganda and
Could be.
education on, family planning and stuff like that. So I'm assuming that's what kind of pushed into the or the capital and the dish or Panem narrative is that
Mhm.
maybe they're just being told no you have families and that's what you do and that's how your district survives.
Right.
So I have to also think about it from that piece that we're not seeing because Katniss is a 16-year-old teenager.
Unreliable narrator. Correct.
But
Yeah. I think that's a good point too. Um yeah. I think if it weren't for the games, Katniss probably would not have ever like married or had kids on her own. Uh I think she would have fought so that Prim could have that life if she wanted it. But I don't know that Katniss herself ever would have chosen that if it weren't for the Hunger Games and like what they kind of did to her psyche.
mm-hmm.
But
Because even like I said, if she ever married Gail, it would have been strictly out of convenience.
yeah, like literally a
Like
marriage of
I don't think,
convenience.
I really don't think she would have woken up and been like, "Oh, Gail, I need to marry you right now." Like it never would have been that. It would
Yeah.
have been Gail being like, "So we should get married? Why?"
Mhm.
Well, A, B, C, and D reasons. Sure. Like
And
that
like
literally
that
would
would
have
have
been
been
the
it.
conversation,
Yeah.
I think.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree.
But also, I had a note on here that was like, okay, side note, I love dystopian novels, but why is it always grown men having beef with teenagers?
Literally. Ugh. Literally. And like I get that a lot of dystopian novels are like YA centered, so having your
Mm-hmm.
protagonist as a teenager makes sense, but literally why is it always a teenager versus like grown ass adult men ruling their world?
But you know what? I guess that's relevant because if you think about it, the youngest generation is always being targeted by the men in the government
That's
because
true.
they're the primary
That's true.
villains of the story.
I think it also
So,
like
I
ties
mean, I
into
guess it sort
like
of makes sense.
yeah, or like oh, this generation are going to be the ones who insert blank here and then you just rinse and
Mm-hmm.
repeat forever.
Exactly.
Mhm.
I mean, it makes sense because if you as a teenager are not being targeted as somebody who is more subject to being, what is the word? Like a victim to propaganda, I guess.
Mhm. Yeah, which
But
is so not to like dive into this whole other topic, but I think it's really funny that like the pendulum has swung the other way of like, the millennials are the ones who grew up with the internet and the rise of the internet and technology. But like growing up, you always heard from our parents of like, oh, don't trust strangers on the internet. Don't believe everything you see on the internet. Don't do this. And now it's like both our parents and the generation after us are like, oh my god, I saw this online, so obviously it's true. Oh, reshare the truth. And I'm like, you couldn't take 2 seconds to fact check yourself?
it, it's like this government official says that the sky is now not blue, it is now red. And they'll be like,
Yeah.
yup, the sky's red, everybody. What?
Yes. And like
What? What?
with technology being as advanced as it is and not stopping, and it's like, "Oh my god, did you see this thing happen in this place?" And I'm like, Did it though? Because that person has like two heads. So I don't really know that what you're seeing is happening
Don't
the
even.
way you think it is.
I have a story. I have a story for you on that, but that is an offline topic. But let me tell you, I experienced this. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. I literally know somebody who is actively in the area that you're talking about. That is not happening.
Oh my
Who
god.
are you believing and why?
Yeah, yeah. But then like I think it also ties into like propaganda and, manipulated propaganda and all this other stuff and you know, we are being told things that they want us to be told. And so many people just kind of take that at face value and don't do any other sort of research or fact checking. Um, and it's just like we have lost the plot of don't believe everything you see on the internet so hard.
It's like,
What are we
okay, honestly,
doing?
I'm not gonna lie. I have a theory in the back of my mind, and I don't know if anybody ever talked about this because, again, like, I don't think theory culture was really big because when this was coming out, the internet was not nearly to what it is now.
Yeah.
But like, was there ever talked about the fact of like, are we even sure that the Capitol thinks that these people are like actually fighting to the death? Or in their minds or with propaganda are they being told, oh yeah, they're being pulled, but like don't worry, it's like what's the word that they used, especially like for like stuff like wrestling
Oh.
and stuff, where it's like exaggerated, or it's
Yeah.
just for, what is the word that I'm thinking?
Oh my god.
um I guess staged, but not staged.
Yeah.
There's another word that I'm thinking. But I almost am wondering if
Oh.
that's what the people in the Capitol kind of think. Because how is it that these people are literally watching kids die,
Yeah.
and they're like la 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 la. Like,
And
it's like, do they
notice
even think that it's real?
notice how there's never a capital tribute. Because you have the capital as like the epicenter, and then you start at District 1, and then it goes down to 12/13, and the tributes are always District 1. There's never anybody from the capital.
Is it because the
That's
Capitol's full of like nepo babies of like
crazy.
government officials?
I mean, probably, and celebrities, and God knows who else.
Mm-hmm.
But that, I
So of
mean,
course
and
we
then
know it
especially,
started.
right. But then, like, because you don't have, like you said earlier, you don't have people crossing the districts.
Like, how far are these districts from each other?
I didn't even think. That's crazy. Well,
I mean, Pan Am is the old United States, so it's like, is it across the
right. Is it, and then is it this way? Is it this way?
right? Because
Is
they
it,
take a train,
right.
so they obviously had to go horizontally.
And then they're at one point in this one, they're on the Victor's tour, and there's snow in District 12, but then they get to District 11, and it's hot. So there's at least
So like,
enough distance that they went from snow to like a warm weather or warm climate.
so maybe they almost went from like northeast to the south.
Yeah. Uh, Let me see
I
if
wonder if
there's.
anybody ever like drew this out,
I'm looking that up right. Uh,
or is it like a condensed version of the United
that
States? Like
maybe
they didn't
makes
take over the whole
sense.
thing, or like North America. So like, did they go Canada to Mexico?
Uh, Let me see if I.
Well, no, they say specifically South or North America, don't they?
Yeah, here you'll have to look on the stream, but
Oh yeah, here, let's see.
uh, I don't know if I can get this any like wider. Anyway, I don't want to do that.
Mm.
Okay, whatever. Anyway, hopefully that's on the stream. I don't know.
So is this general area then? Is that Mexico? Or no, that's Florida.
That's Florida. I don't think my thing is up.
Let me
Um,
see.
Florida's just off the map. There
I
is no
mean, that's
Florida
probably
on
not a
this
bad
map.
thing.
No, it's very much not a bad thing.
Florida man.
Oh wait, is that what we're doing? Oops, that's not the map that I
Oh, is
want.
this possibly it?
There we go. There we go.
Oh, the districts are all different sizes.
Yeah.
Quite possibly. Okay, I
Um,
think this is it. I can let me see if I can send it to you so you can share it. I think this is it. Can I
I
not?
hate that I have to go back and forth every single time on this.
Oh, why did I do that? There we go. Did it work?
I think so. Give me a second. Let me pull it up. Not on camera.
Yeah, like I don't know if this is 100% exact, but yeah, I don't. I guess they like didn't inhabit Florida
I
or
mean,
Hawaii or Alaska.
I wouldn't inhabit Florida either.
What
I'm not here by choice. Um, I can't get that open. There we go.
well, there's
Oh,
one.
interesting.
Oh, the other one didn't work. Here, let me snip that one.
I got it. Let
Let's snip
me.
this one.
Oop. Okay. So there's this as an option. So the yellow is the capital, the red is District 1, the orange is District 2. That's
District 3
so
is like California area.
that feels so like ridiculous though. Like that
But it makes
feels
sense where 12's axis snows there. And that
yeah.
makes sense why they hunt so much, like Appalachian
Yeah, that's
area.
true.
What district would we be? Oh,
District 3 on this
see on
map.
this map it says 3 is California, or 3 is us and 4 is California area.
Yeah.
But on the other one, I think it said that
Who is this from?
on the other one, 1, 2, and 3 were closest to the
Oh.
capital, which makes sense. And like 4 was kind of detached.
Okay, wait, hang on.
And Indiana was
Indiana
9.
was. I've got. Oh, why is that so small? Okay, hold on. We're gonna.
What doesn't make sense is where 8 being landlocked on I think both of these maps when 8 is supposed to be on the coast. Because
Yeah.
aren't they the seafood one?
Four was the seafood one, I think.
Oh, 4 is the seafood one. But
Okay,
still Loki doesn't make sense because
okay. Check the so the stream. This is per Lionsgate. So the
oh, okay.
release of the whatever. I can still vaguely see this as North America, I guess. But I think the map that you sent in the Discord is correct. Yeah, is correct. Not that one, this one.
So is 4 to the left?
Yeah, so four is like California, Washington.
That see that okay, that makes better sense for the
Hmm.
seafood.
Yeah, capital is what, Wyoming ish?
Interesting.
Wyoming, Colorado, Utah ish? LOL. District 1, yeah, so this is I think pretty accurate to this map for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
For the most part, there's some questionable in there. So like 10 I think goes into Mexico. Apparently we just cut Florida off the map. Unless Florida is District 13.
Oh, that would make sense.
Mhm.
That would make sense since they're like
Yeah.
off the books.
The coal mine would also make a lot of sense for District 12 being
Yes.
Appalachia.
Yes, it absolutely would.
I don't remember what the other shit was, but uh 5 being electric, right? Power plants, New Mexico area, Arizona area. Um Interesting. Okay.
That is interesting.
Hmm. Well, now we
I
know.
don't hate it.
That's kind of cool. Yeah. That's kind of crazy though that like the districts are spread out like this versus like starting from like I don't know, the capital being over here and then each district just literally getting like physically further. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
crazy to me that District 9 is next to the capital.
Yeah.
Or like
Yeah.
District 10 is next to like District 2. Interesting. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we have all learned something today.
I know, that's actually really fascinating to me.
Yeah.
But that makes better sense of like how they kind of travel. And I guess
Yeah.
they just kind of like made it some kind of rail
Zigzag.
system to like the different capital areas in
Mhm.
each district, I guess.
Mhm. Okay.
Okay. That explains why they stay gone all the time, though.
Yeah. Correct. Anyway, so yeah, I mean if there's
Hmm.
literally like no way to cross borders or anything, a lot of the propaganda I think would be easily confined, um, easily manipulated depending on the districts. And then, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's a super interesting theory that you have that, like, it's possible the capital doesn't know that these people are actually dying.
Yeah,
Interesting.
because imagine, like, if they tell you, oh, yeah, don't worry, like, it was all just kind of staged, it was just the theatrics of it all.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't worry. How are you going to know? You
How do
don't
you
leave the
know?
capital,
Right.
you stay drunk.
Right.
So you're not
Hmm.
going to know if the people from District 12 all the way on the other side of Panem have actually died because when
Right.
are you, how would you ever know?
Right. And if you're not there in these districts to see these people not come home or to see their families affected, like, you don't know. It's entertainment. It's literally
Exactly. Like,
WWE
and
entertainment, like you said.
right. And like, unless you're people like Effie who
Mm-hmm.
work, so like she knows out of district of who came
Mm-hmm.
back.
Mm-hmm.
Unless, like, so like I think, but that's what's also what kind of debunks my theory is that people who work for it also live in the capital, and it's like, are they not just not talking about it, or is that like the fear thing? Like they
I.
just avoid talking about it. Like they know they
Mm-hmm.
died, but if somebody else says, "Oh no, those people don't really die," you just don't really argue it.
I think that would be a solid, uh, like, yeah, a solid assumption is they just don't talk about it. Or anybody that they do talk about it to don't care. I mean, we're told several times that, like, Katniss's prep team talks about how they were affected by things, or, like, oh, a party that they went to when she's literally going back into the Hunger Games a year after she just did it. Like, oh, I went to this party. Oh, I went to that. Oh, I remember I was at this thing when I heard about this. Like, they don't care.
Yeah,
So it could just be a lot of
yeah,
like,
they're like so
oh,
blissfully
mm-hmm,
unaffected.
yeah,
Yeah, that's true. And I find it really interesting that kind of leads into like all the fabricated news stories like on the same topic.
yeah,
And then she sees like she finally sees the flash of the Mockingjay and
mm-hmm,
she's like, "Wait a minute. I don't know where that girl is at, but it is not District
yeah,
13."
yep, yep,
And it's like now when these people go on these podcasts and like these radical like fake news things and they're
yep.
like, "Hey, like we're reporting live here. Where is here?"
Where's here? Where are you,
Because I know
babe?
you lying.
Correct. Yep,
And I think that's just like super good for like appropriate right now because all the fabricated or exaggerated news stories is just so appropriate, especially with all the dangers of AI going on right now.
yep.
So it's like you literally just never know what's going on. So you have to literally rely on like your actual like your level of
Mm-hmm.
education to be like, I don't think that's actually happening the way that you're saying it's happening. But
Which
sure.
I will,
Somebody's falling for that though.
yeah, and like I will say that's one of the things that I think was actually good about TikTok and why TikTok was targeted is like it was showing people around the world things that were happening in real time, and like starting conversations about things like that in real time versus like, I will say, I think mainstream news across the board can be bought, can be sold, can be told to sell a story. So, even it doesn't matter what side you're on, whatever news you think is like the right news can still be telling you a story, a specific story.
And they're all owned by like the same three people.
Literally, yes. Um, and like, so like, I haven't found that same sense of like in real time, literal reporting, for lack of a better word, on anything since I've been off of TikTok. Like, Twitter is very configured and
Mhm.
is very slow, or like the most I've been able to see is like, why is nobody talking about XYZ? But then I never actually
Mhm.
see anybody talking about it. It's just, why is nobody? Um Maybe Threads is a little different, I don't know. Obviously Facebook and Instagram aren't having those kinds of conversations. So that's one thing that I will say that I haven't found since being off of TikTok for the last, oh my god, 2 months. Um is
Mhm.
that, so, you know but even at that, you had to go and fact check, because it was like, okay, you say this is happening, but you are filming a video in your bedroom in an undisclosed location. So it's like, I don't even know that that's really happening. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Just always question everything and do your own research and confirm with like at least two or three other sources.
Also, I just find it really interesting that I honestly kind of feel like Katniss was thrown into rebellion she didn't really ask to be a part of.
Yeah, 1000%
Like,
agree.
how'd you guys just make this teenager a symbol
Mhm.
against her will and again and like not what is it against her knowledge?
Mhm.
No, not against it. She didn't know.
Without her knowledge.
Without her knowledge. Thank
Mhm.
you. Words,
Yeah.
English.
Yeah.
Without her knowledge. And then
You.
next thing you know, they're like, "Oh yeah, didn't you know? Like you're the
Yeah.
symbol, girl of what?"
Yeah. Like, they made her a symbol of their rebellion that she didn't know about, that she didn't try to instigate. Um and I mean, she literally says up until the point that she was trying to play the game just to keep herself and her family and friends safe. Like, she
Mm-hmm.
was willing to play the happily engaged victor and to do whatever President Snow said in order to keep her close friends and family safe, no matter what was going on in the other districts with the rebellion and the fights that she knew were happening, if it meant being able to keep her circle safe. And then I think once she realized that that was no longer an option and that like the rebellion was actually spreading, I think that kind of threw her into it. And then, yeah, even more so, like, she did not choose to be a part of this.
Yeah, it was. It's actually kind of messed up thinking about it because I was like, "Dang, like this girl didn't even know, and y'all just
Mhm.
willingly pin this Mockingjay, set her
Mhm.
up to do this love story thing, got them both to live,
Mhm.
and played on it." And I was like, "Y'all are kind of dicks. Like, you didn't
Yeah.
even tell this poor teenage girl
What
what
was
you were
going
about to get
on?
her involved in." And you
Mhm.
can kind of feel like her frustration. She's like, "Why do I don't know, like she never says it directly, but she alludes to a lot where she just kind of is like, I just feel like there's so much I don't know, but something
Mhm.
is happening."
Yeah.
And the way that President Snow came to her was it was basically like, "Oh, like don't act like you don't know." And she's like, "What the
She's
hell are
like,
you
but
talking
I don't
about?"
know.
She's like, "But I don't know. Like I
Yeah.
just of course I love him and I wanted us to both live. Like what do you
Mhm.
mean?" And it's so
Mhm.
surface level in comparison to what he thinks.
Mhm. Yeah. And like I said earlier, she definitely alludes to like not liking and not agreeing with the capital and the government and the way that things are run, but she's very, for lack of a better word, she's content to play her part in it if it means survival
Yeah.
up and
Like,
up until
but,
like this point.
and I think I actually made a comment about that where, to kind of go further into the story, obviously the victors being picked out as the tributes for the 75th quarter quell
Mhm.
was crazy work. Like,
Yeah.
you are told if you win this, you never have to do this again. You're good.
Mhm. And then psych.
Rules change, psych.
Mhm.
And it's like the manipulation and the tactics and just all the conniving, and it's like just to squash what he saw was coming
Mhm.
was insane to me. And it honestly just shows you that it is just never a good idea to fight for the wrong team because you feel like you're unaffected,
Yeah.
because the goalpost is always moving. If it is not you right now, it will be you. That's how we saw the Holocaust happen. And
Correct.
that's why we're in the position that we're in right
Uh
now. Because
huh.
everybody said, oh, this doesn't bother me, babe, right now.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's like even all these victors being like, "Oh, well, I did what I was supposed to do and then I just never talked to anybody and I minded my business again."
Mhm.
Well,
Well. Oh well, I didn't think he meant me. I didn't think they were talking about me and my family. Well, you look stupid now. How about that? I will say, like, I
yep.
I did like the show of like solidarity that they did on that stage, um, right before the Hunger Games started, where they all like held hands, and like Katniss makes a point of like saying that this was the strongest show of like rebellion or like partnership or whatever that they had done. So I did like that. Um, but I also liked um Katniss like being unaware of a lot of this stuff going on, or like her first instinct a lot of the times was not to trust anybody or to fight people
Mhm.
or to like, I mean, she jumped to conclusions all of the time, which makes sense when you remember that she's 16 years old. So like
Mhm.
I liked that we had those moments where it kind of made her an annoying like female main character, or like kind of out of the loop or going against what other people were doing, because again, she's 16. So I like that we kind of had that dose of like realism to this character too. Um
And I like the fact that even though she was very mature in a lot of ways, she
mhm.
still wasn't in so many ways. Like, kind of like I was
Right.
saying earlier, she couldn't properly articulate to Gale that it wasn't that she didn't love him. It's just that if they got married, it was literally going to be out of a
Mhm.
survival convenience. Like, I, an adult would, a healthy adult would be able to articulate to both Peeta and Gale, this is not us getting married because this is happily ever after.
Right.
Like, we're getting married because there's something behind this.
Right.
Like, survival both ways across the board. I love you
Mhm.
both, but I don't think I'm going to love you the capacity that you're thinking that I'm going to.
Right.
And as a teenager, she doesn't know how to articulate that, especially somebody who has literally only been kissed for like some kind of ulterior motive, like Gail
Mhm.
being freaking manipulative as hell,
Had she
and
ever
then and a
even
guilt
been
tripper.
kissed before PETA kissed her?
I don't think so.
That's crazy. Like, not crazy with her being 16, but that's crazy to think in this context of this world, she had never been kissed before PETA kissed her as a tactic in the Hunger Games. That's crazy.
I mean, granted, from him, obviously under the surface, we know it was real, but
Mhm.
still, like, she literally has never had an ability to just be a quote unquote normal 16-year-old
Yeah.
to approach and articulate subjects like this.
Mhm.
So I like that we get to see, kind of like you said, that realistic level of personality and, like, what's the word, like mentality, maybe, and emotional
Yeah.
capacity,
Yeah.
because she is a teenager.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah. Also, like, I think it makes uh there's several moments, obviously, with this being a very much live or die situation where she's talking about like, I know I'm going to die, or I think of the people that I love and I know that the end is coming, or I know if it's between him and me, it's going to be him. And I mentally, like, as I was reading this, was comparing that to Fourth Wing and how it felt so much more impactful in the Hunger Games and Catching Fire, those moments, because I'm like, the entire situation is built around these games being a death sentence for 99% of these people in
Mm-hmm.
a world where so many of these people are already dying. So, like, death is always on her mind, and so it felt more necessary to the story. It felt more impactful and realistic versus like Fourth Wing, where every like couple of chapters, fucking Violet is like, oh my god, I think of what my death will do to Tairn and Sigel and Zayden, and I just hope that like they'll be okay. And it's that over and over and over, and I'm like, bitch, I mean, I've already read 50 people die before this chapter. This is you preparing to die for the 10th time in this book, and I'm gonna get through this another 6 times. So like, okay, you're just being dramatic. Like, it was just really
That's
interesting the
why
way
I
that was
said
like compared.
yes, and that's what I said earlier. Like looking at Sarah J. Maas and Rebecca Yarros,
Mm-hmm.
oh, let me actually go through battle, and then now I'm worried about like not to be graphic, but like sucking dick. Like
Yeah,
what are we worried
right.
about right now? Like
Like,
you
Katniss
guys
has
are
actual
literally
priorities.
and she was 16. And
Yeah.
I don't and it what makes me mad is like Farah grew up this exact same way, hunting for her
Yeah.
family. She's not the oldest.
Mm-hmm.
Also their kind of stuff. Katniss is the oldest, but same concept, like don't have a lot of money. In
Yeah.
order to eat, they have to hunt, and et cetera, et cetera. Like so they both come from this mindset of like survival skills.
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah. A 2 year age difference,
What
I
happened?
guess.
And
Mm-hmm.
Katniss and it's like I don't know if because Reese quote unquote was like the safe space that suddenly she was like, oh, I don't have to worry about things anymore because Reese is like the all saving protector, and maybe Katniss never really felt that. But it's like still you're not in neither of you are in this real and true like
Mm-hmm.
safe space to be out of fight or flight mode.
Yeah. I mean, like, Feyre enters this fairy world that is under this awful rule, and then she leaves Tamlin and goes to Reese, and then they go to war. So
Yes.
I don't know when like her brain would have had time to switch from like survival mode to fucking mode. But
In my
like,
feminine era. Like, girl, what? Go to therapy first.
literally, no, literally, and like, I don't know. I think Suzanne Collins does a much better job of portraying these like thoughts, desires slash survival instincts much
Mm-hmm.
much more realistically while still being entertaining, for lack of a better word, than
Mm-hmm.
like, Feyre or Violet breaking furniture in the middle of a battle.
And it goes to show you how much smut, if it's not
Mm-hmm.
properly done, can ruin the
Mm-hmm.
entire work that you just published. Like, nothing is wrong with smut at all. I don't mind it sometimes in my books. I like being
Right.
like, ooh, hee hee, kicking and giggling. Like, but
Hoo-hee.
it, if like, yeah. But it just goes to show that if you are not almost like strategic about it, it will
Yeah.
completely ruin the point in which you're trying to make. And that is what we saw slowly start to happen with the Fourth Wing series, and what we definitely saw happen with Akatar
Yeah.
was the second you just start throwing in plot to please like a certain or smut to throw in like a certain please a certain crowd,
Yeah.
you lost the whole plot here. What happened?
And like, I think I mentioned this in one of our fourth, or maybe our Onyx Storm discussion. But there's a booktuber who broke down
Mm-hmm.
all of the sex scenes between Fourth Wing, Iron Flame, and Onyx Storm. There's only really 3 sex scenes in each book. But because that storyline is so central, it overrides almost everything else that happens, and you can't think about anything else other than the fact that there's so much smut. And like, I don't know specifically how many sex scenes are in the Akatar series. I know
Too many.
the first book only has doesn't have any sex scenes, maybe like 2 like close calls.
No, I
Um
thought she had. No, she sleeps with Tamlin in the first one.
okay, so like 1 and like a close call or 2 maybe.
Yeah, that
So
sounds
like
right.
the
Maybe.
first one was very like PG, at least compared to the rest. But
That's why the first one wasn't that bad. It was just
yeah.
slow.
But again, you have the fact that these scenes override everything else, that becomes all that anybody can talk about. So it doesn't matter that
Yep.
your books have a whole political plot line or um, war plot line or whatever. All anybody can focus on is the smut versus
Yep.
Hunger Games kind of keeps a lot, bases a lot of it in reality while still being fantastical, I guess. But keeping those
Yep.
things in mind of like this 16-year-old girl in the middle of this world is not worried about which boy she wants more or how he makes her feel with her toes curling and his kisses of pleasure or whatever. Like there's definitely a couple of moments where that's described. There's 2 moments where that's described between the first book and this book. And like that's it. Everything else um is very much like to the point and done for a purpose, and I liked that personally.
Yeah. And also, I realized that, um, oh, ironically, um, oh, my computer's starting weird stuff.
Mm.
Hold up. What just opened on my computer?
It's not a
Hello?
paperback cowgirl stream if something doesn't go wrong at some point.
I am literally clicking
Always.
buttons. What is occurring?
Hello.
This game on my computer just randomly opened. I have so many questions.
All right.
How is it open right now?
It's like
What is it open through?
game stream. Let's go.
Like, I don't know how to close this. I'm clicking buttons. There we go. How did that
Oh
just
my
happen? What the
lord.
hell? I was like going to adjust something to see like the Twitch thing on, and I don't
Yeah.
know what I opened, but it just went whoop,
All right.
Jackbox. I was like,
Jackpot.
that's not it. I
Oh
was
my
so
god.
confused. Oh man, that was funny. um, but I don't know. I lost my whole track of thought or train of thought because literally this just opened and I went, what the hell?
Oh my
Oh
god.
man. I know that one thing I was gonna say was that it like she's still a teenager and she still obviously cares about the two of them, so it's not like we don't get comments or like feedback
Right.
from her that obviously the push and pull between Peta and Gale and the way that they interact with each other around her is like
Mhm.
not a thing, but
Mhm.
it is something that is it I just like how it doesn't overrule and like overshadow everything else going on
Right.
in the books.
Right.
And I really just miss a lot of how like books used to be written with the
Mhm.
point of like telling a story, and
Yeah.
if smut added to it, sure. If smut was a part of it, sure. But it wasn't just being put in there as like a marketing strategy to
Mhm.
the smut book talk crowd, so then
Correct.
that way they'll pick it up, because unfortunately a lot of them now especially are like, oh, if that book doesn't have smut in it, I'm not reading it.
People
Okay.
this is a very broad generalization, but if they release the Hunger Games now, Book Talk would definitely review it as like 0 out of 5 chilies, no spice, don't recommend.
Yes. And it's like, yes, because she's freaking
She's
16
16.
in in war in an arena fighting for her life,
Hmm.
babe. What?
Like,
Like,
I know I had a very different experience, growing up with like my sexuality and stuff, but like, I think I could say most 16-year-olds in that situation aren't going to go around thinking about, the next time they can get, what.
no, literally. Like that's not like the average teenager's
Hmm.
mindset,
Hmm.
especially in that context. In
Yes.
America right now, yeah, probably, we're like, but like
Yeah.
in this capacity, no, I don't think
No.
so. Because you notice she
Mm-mm.
even says, like, when she was having nightmares, he comes and sleeps in her room. They don't do
That's
anything.
it. They sleep. Yep.
They go to bed and he comforts her.
Yep.
That's
That's
all.
it.
That's all
That's
they
it.
do.
Which again,
Also,
I think adds to the whole trauma bond thing of like she doesn't actually love him. He's just a comforting presence and stability in her life, and she doesn't know how to process that any other way than that.
without ruining or like spoiling anything
Hmm.
crazy, I know that she does, but it's a built in that trauma bond, and two, she doesn't know to what capacity.
Okay.
Like, do I love him because he's my friend? Like in this moment in Catching Fire,
Yeah.
I think when she thinks of PETA and when she thinks of, because remember when she was telling Gail let's run away, she included PETA.
Right.
So I think when she thinks of her family, when she thinks of Gail and his family, and when she thinks of PETA and his family, and even to this point, like Haymitch and her supporters in all of this, like
Hmm.
they're all in this capacity of these are the people I love and care about, and I will do
Yeah.
anything to keep them alive. And I love seeing the transition of adding PETA into that because in book one she'd have been like,
Hmm.
but obviously now he's included in that, like he's a part of this like found family of hers.
Yeah.
But I again, like I know that she loves him, but I don't think in this capacity or in her own emotional capacity and with how much trauma that she has from surviving her whole life, the
Hmm.
first Hunger Games and the second one, that she even has the ability to sit down and really put into a box like what it is that she feels for him. She's not
Yeah.
this like overly emotional female character, which I also really like.
Yeah.
And so I feel like growing up we didn't really get a lot of that. Like look at Bella in an 18-month timeline. She literally was like thinking in 5 minutes she was thinking about marrying and having kids with Edward one day. I mean, maybe not kids because like she didn't think it was possible, but
Right.
it crossed her mind.
I mean,
But like very average female type
Mhm.
narrative versus Katniss, like you said, first book, don't want to get married, don't want kids, and the fact
Right.
that she's not this overly emotional
Yeah.
person. She doesn't really know how to articulate what she's feeling. That's very like non feminine, quote
Typical.
unquote.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, like the fact that the events of the first Twilight book take place over like what 2 months, and she and Edward talk all of like 2 or 3 times before they're dating. Like
And
that.
before he goes and saves her life, like what the
Yes.
hell?
And then by the end of the first book, she's like, "Oh, turn me, and we can be together forever." And I'm like, "Babe, you don't know him. You don't know this man. You
Oh
don't
my
know
god, imagine
him."
if we did that with somebody we dated in high school.
Ugh.
Oh, oh,
Blech.
oh.
No.
Oh,
Mm-mm.
oh, oh.
Mm-mm. No. I never met a single person in high school that I was like, you know what? Forever. You and me, babe, forever. Nope. Nope. Could not be me. I am not one of those high school sweetheart people. Nope.
Oh, hell no.
And
I can't
like,
even
can
imagine.
you imagine any of the people you dated in high school? Still?
hell, hell no. Hell to
Oh
the
my
no.
god.
Times three. Like,
Nope. Um,
Absolutely not.
to go back to one of the other points that you had said is like Katniss goes to both Gale and Peeta and includes the other person in her escape plans. So she
Mm-hmm.
goes to Gale and is like, obviously Peeta's coming with us, and then she goes to Peeta and is like, obviously Gale is coming with us. So like you said, it's very much like she has different feelings for them in different ways, but they are both family to her. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think, and I kind of hate the push from the both of them for her to try to put them in a box. Like, who do you want?
Yeah,
Or like, who do you want to be with? And it's like, can this girl just focus on surviving, please? Like,
yeah.
hey, let's get past this, entire uprising and rebellion of the capital,
Mhm.
and then maybe we could talk about it. And who knows, maybe
Mhm.
it's neither you bitches.
Yeah. Can she talk to a therapist for a couple of months? Maybe I don't know.
Right. Can she
You know.
explore the 12 other districts that exist? Okay.
Correct.
Like,
Something. Damn.
there's also a comment on page 178 that really intrigued me. It was when Haymitch says, "As you could," he tells Katniss, "You could live 100 different lives, or no, you could live 100 lifetimes and not deserve him." And I was like, "Is Katniss just like this big of a piece of shit, and I'm just not aware?" Like, am I like female main character blinded or something? I didn't think that she was
Yeah.
that bad.
I think it comes from like her being brought up with that like very singular focus on survival, and she will do
Mm.
whatever it takes to survive no matter what. Versus Peta grew up a little bit more cushioned and comfortable, so like he's able to
Mm-hmm.
develop other feelings outside of that need for survival. And so I think it's like he truly loves Katniss, but Katniss only loves him in as far as it is like survival of like you or me,
Mm-hmm.
one of us is going to survive and that's it. And it just depends on who's going to be the best to get out of this situation. And I don't think I don't think it makes her a bad person. I think it just means that she was very formed by the way that she grew up. And I mean like also like look at she didn't know how to handle her mom's depression after her dad died. And like that was her
Mm-hmm.
experience of like, well, my mom married somebody lower than her, and then, all
Mm-hmm.
of this other stuff happened, and I don't want to marry or have children anyway. And then Peta comes in as this very romantic
Mm-hmm.
kind of feeling. So like I can see what Haymitch meant. I don't think it means that she's a bad person.
Yeah, I guess maybe in my mind, I was just when I read it, I was like, I thought about that. I kind of looked back to the first and the second book. I was like, why is Peter the one that they all kind of view as almost like that they're all below him?
Yeah.
And I was like, is that just like the way that they all grew up, or is it because he's the one that has this more like they almost like romanticized him?
Yeah.
Oh, he's the dreamer. He's the innocent one.
Mhm.
He's the he's the, like you said, like the romantic
Yeah.
one. So they almost put him like on this pedestal,
Mhm.
and I'm like, I mean, okay, sure, like if we're talking about innocence and him being a dreamer, sure, yeah, maybe he should be the one to live, but also like she's the one that fought for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
She had
Yeah.
like literally like survival of the fittest.
Correct. Yeah.
So I don't know. I
Mhm.
thought that was strange. I was like, oh, okay. I never remembered that. And then when I read it, I was like,
Mhm.
oh yeah, that's like a whole theme throughout this whole series is that,
Yeah.
oh yeah, like none of you would ever deserve PETA. Like why are we putting PETA all the way up here as if
Right.
he's like this like innocent dream child? Like,
Yeah. Sweet summer
okay.
child protected.
Yeah, like why
Right.
when if anyone had the skills
Mhm.
literally based off natural selection to survive,
Would not be him.
it was Katniss.
Right.
It would not be him.
Mm. Yeah, that's interesting.
So I don't understand why I like that was their um the MO, I guess, for each of the character. Like, oh, we all should make sure PETA survives because he's like the sweet summer child, and it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, you should all live because you're all human, but
Right.
sure, if we're speaking survival, literal survival of the fittest,
Right.
like not PETA.
Well, I know cuz you said you only made it halfway so far. So having finished it, I know that there's a point towards the end where they say that Finnick and Joanna focused on keeping PETA alive, and like the other tributes sacrificed themselves for PETA because they knew if they lost PETA, they would lose Katniss. Um,
Mm.
which I don't think quite plays into this whole like, you don't deserve him type thing, but it makes
Mm-hmm.
a little bit more sense of like why everybody tries to protect Peter or keep him safe is because like by proxy it keeps Katniss safe, alive, sane, and which helps their whole rebellion thing happening. So, you
I guess
know,
that's true. I guess at this point he's also kind of like the second half of this
right.
rebellion symbol. So
Mhm.
I guess at that point for them, yeah, but
Mhm.
it's like even when it comes down to the two of them being these symbols of the rebellion, like he's the one. Like if she died, he's gonna definitely die
Yeah.
because he's gonna be like peace out.
Yeah.
But if he died, no offense, like I feel like she would stay alive.
She still keep going. He literally says like he tells her that she has to survive because she has people to go back to and things keeping her going, and he has nobody if she dies.
Mm-hmm.
And so like yeah, I think it yeah, it all kind of ties into that.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, 100%.
Mhm.
What else you got for today? Because you finished it. I mean, granted, I've read it
Yeah.
before and I've obviously seen the movies, but
Right.
you finished it. So I don't know if there was any other specific details towards the end, since I think we're mostly at the end now.
Yeah, I don't think I had anything else major. I I think out of the three main movies, I've seen Mocking like the least amount of Mockingjay, so I'm not totally sure what happens, which I'm kind of excited to go into this a little bit more blind. Um, so I'm excited to see if PETA becomes like a capital puppet, um, or like kind of how that plays out because I don't really know what happens there. Um, I'm excited to see more of the rebellion. Um, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Just again, like I said, I like that all of Katniss's flaws and her being kept in the dark and her being very reactionary and all this stuff is what you would expect from an actual typical 16-year-old. So it all makes
Mm-hmm.
sense. So I'm really enjoying that part of it and I'm excited to see how it continues to go. That's pretty much it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm on page. Let's see. Sorry, you guys. It wouldn't be the paperback Cowgirls if one of us hasn't actually finished it.
Correct.
Out of three,
Which we
I'm
both finished the
391
Heartstopper
pages.
books by our stream, so we were on top
All
of
of
that.
them.
Yeah.
That's true. I've also had a busy few weeks, and my life's expecting here to slow down a little bit, so that's
Hmm.
good. So I should be able to have Mockingjay done.
You say as you go
Um,
out of town again tomorrow for the next week. It's okay. You'll have a plane
at
ride to
least I'm
read.
streaming from my house, though.
Yeah.
I'm streaming from my house, though. So I have read two other books. I've been reading the I turned
The
shit.
summer
What's
I
this
turned
damn book
pretty.
called? The Summer I Turned Pretty. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
So um I did the audiobooks for that though. So I was
Mhm.
listening to those while at drill, and I just didn't physically have the capacity to be able to sit down. Like literally every night, by the time I got to my bed, I was like, "Okay, cool. Let me finish Hunger Games." And then I'd get like 5 pages in, and they turn the lights off, and I'd be like, "Okay, I guess I'm not
Yeah.
finishing it today."
That's been nice, like with the job that I now have, thankfully. It is like a 30 to 40 to 60-minute commute depending on the day and the time. So like audiobooks have been so good. So I've
Mm-hmm.
been listening to
Yeah,
these like
and
on my
while I
commute.
was listening to the or while I was like working on spreadsheets and stuff to help out my friend who's full time with the reserves, I was listening to the audiobook
Mhm.
too. So I should have gotten the audiobook of Catching Fire while I was there, or of Hunger Games to at least finish it.
Mhm.
I just didn't think about it and was
Mhm.
reading the other one instead too. Um, but yeah, out of 391 pages, I'm on page 219.
Okay, so you're more than halfway at least.
Yeah, I'm a little bit more than halfway.
Mhm.
And again, I obviously remember how it ended because I remembered the
The
pew pew
arrow into the force
at the
field.
arena.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is this
So
one.
like I
Yeah.
yeah, so I definitely remember
Mhm.
how it ends, and I remember most of like the in between stuff, but the details of it, obviously, I haven't quite gotten to yet. So.
Yeah. Yeah. There's I will say it was interesting to like be able to catch the bits and pieces and then see it all come together at the end. Um which
Mm-hmm.
was really interesting. So like the I had his name before we started the stream, but the new head of the Hunger Games like flashes Katniss his
Oh, Plutarch.
yes,
Plutarch. Yeah.
Plutarch Abernathy or some shit. But like he
Ye.
flashes Katniss the watch with the Mockingjay
No,
and
that's Hey Mitch Abernathy.
oh I don't know, Plutarch something.
I'm looking him up. Heavensby. Plutarch
Thank you.
Heavensby.
It was something with an H. I don't fucking know.
He gets played by what's his name? Philip something Seymour,
Oh,
or
interesting.
Philip Seymour Hoffman plays him.
Okay.
But yeah, you're thinking of Hey Mitch Abernathy's his name.
Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
um, but yeah, so like him flashing her the watch with the Mockingjay, and not only like is the clock relevant to like that year's Hunger Games, but also like he's a rebellion leader. So like seeing those things like sprinkled in and then seeing how they come together at the end was super interesting. Oh, that
Still
was
crazy
it.
about Seneca Crane. They said the President Snow said, "You know where he's at." Yeet.
Yeet.
Oh, okay.
Ah, that's who that was. Okay. I love that I couldn't remember exactly who he was, but I was still very much like, hell yeah, girl, when she wrote his name on the dummy in her trials and like hung him from the rafters or whatever the fuck she did. I was like, all right,
Mm-hmm.
hell yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, she's a baddie.
Mhm. Mhm.
I also like how she ran
Stan.
into the guy that she shot the arrow at the apple he was eating, or like the food he was eating, and he was like, "Oh yeah, that was me."
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
I was like,
Correct.
"Okay." Oh man, I'm sorry. I keep yawning. I'm like exhausted from this weekend.
No, girl,
Worked all
same.
last week to go to drill and come work this week.
Um,
Crazy.
I mean, with you saying that,
Uh,
that's all I had for this stream and this book. I'm excited for
yeah,
the next one.
I think that's about it for now. I think you'll really like Mockingjay. That's where everything really comes together,
Okay.
and it will kind of answer some stuff about. I think I mentioned it last stream about how like when one regime kind of ends, like the pros and cons of another one kind of emerging, and
Okay, yeah.
how quickly that can go sour
Mhm.
or it could work out. So
Yeah.
you'll kind of see a little bit more of that play out in Mockingjay.
Okay.
I love the ending of Mockingjay. I remember Mockingjay one thing I do remember is Mockingjay tugged on my heartstrings a lot. That's something I
Mm.
do remember.
Okay. Okay.
So
Interesting.
that was a good one.
Okay. I'm excited.
I have to say I don't remember out of all of them which one was my favorite. So we'll have to talk about it
Mm.
out of the original trilogy
Yeah.
where we stand.
Okay. Okay.
I really don't remember which one was my favorite thinking back.
Mhm.
I feel like maybe Mockingjay,
Okay.
but I guess I'll confirm or deny that next
Yeah.
week.
We'll find out. But
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, with that being said, next week we'll be doing
The
our
cat.
Mockingjay coverage. I'm so tired of her. Um and then we'll be back to our usual typical streaming days, so that will be Thursday, March 20th. Um The next week will be Thursday, March 27th, and that will be both of our first time reading The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. And then, of course, the week after that will be The Sunrise on the Reaping, which, again, it comes out on the 18th. So go get your copy. I think I might do a release party for that that's out here. We'll see. It might be kind of fun.
Oh.
Yeah, the bookstore local to me is doing a release party, I think. So get some of
Oh,
that
that's one thing I
Borders nostalgia.
don't. Yeah, that's something I don't love about living back out here is that like nothing happens
Mhm. Yeah.
where we grew up at. So they like
Mhm.
there was like out of all the Barnes and Nobles we have in our area up here, there was one having a release party for Onyx Storm, and when I called, they were like, "Oh, we're already full." I was like,
Uh,
"How the hell are you full?
that's
Barnes and Noble's big
crazy.
as hell.
Yeah, that's
Like, don't even
wild.
give me a copy of the book. I already have one. Let me just show up and hang out."
Yeah, that's crazy. I
Yeah, they
miss
were
I miss
bad.
that
And then I
border
had to
so
go all the way to
much.
Gopo. Ugh,
I mean
me
that
too.
that did
The one right there
the
by Target.
yeah, that did the Deathly Hallows midnight release party, like actual
Mm-hmm.
party. It did the Twilight movie release party, I think. Like
Mm-hmm.
bring back fun things for books and movie releases, man.
Listen, you know they can't do half of this because people start shooting it up. Like, remember the
You're right.
freaking Batman one?
Yeah, you're right.
We can't have nice things. You can't go to no concert.
Nope.
You can't go to a book release. Can't go to a movie theater. You can't do nothing
Can't do
without
shit.
basically having to look over your shoulder the whole time.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
thankfully I've been lucky and not had to worry about that. But well, I guess sort of when I was at Purdue, I was there when the school shooting happened.
Mm.
Um, but
Yeah.
like, I mean, when I go out to public events, I'm like, okay, where's that exit at?
Yep. Every time.
Which is terrible. But I
I
think we should bring it back anyways, because at this point, it's like it's gonna happen or not. I
yeah,
mean,
just add like security measures or something, you know? I don't know.
they got mass concerts and stuff now. They got snipers.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. They had that at a Pride Parade a couple years ago, I think in Chicago.
Yeah, I went to Fourth of July downtown Nashville to watch the fireworks, and they had snipers on the rooftops of the
Mm.
bars on Broadway,
Mhm.
which
Yeah.
as they should, because people are silly.
People are crazy.
But
Anyway,
yeah,
with all
so
that being said,
hey, perfect,
uh
perfect topic for the
perfect
Hunger
topic.
Games.
Yep, for sure. But
But
yeah.
yeah,
Anyway, thanks for hanging out with us
see you
today,
next
talking about
week.
Catching Fire. And yeah, we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Ah.